they just started going into a frenzy, just beating us. If you had a pencil and paper, uh, looking like you were a reporter, if you had a camera as a photographer, they destroyed it. And then they turned on the Freedom Riders. There were 21 of us that arrived in Montgomery. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Reverend Ralph Abernathy was on a speaking trip in Chicago when they heard about what had happened. They came back to Montgomery. They met with many of us late that night to plan a mass meeting at Reverend Abernathy's church for that Sunday. And the church was full by 6:30 p.m. They had 21 Freedom Riders, including rubidours. I had a patch on my head. Representative of the Department of Justice, John Doyle, they want us to talk to any local officials, the FBI, any state officials, until he had interviewed us. So we disguised ourselves and went in the choir stand like we were members of the choir. They put a cap on my head, sitting in the choir in the church. And later that evening, a mob marched on the church, started throwing stink bombs, breaking the windows. Dr. King went into the basement of the church, called Robert Kennedy, and told him what was happening. The Attorney General spoke to his brother, and President Kennedy federalized the Alabama National Guard, placed the city of Montgomery under martial law, and called out United States Marshal to protect us. And we stayed in that church almost all night. The general of the National Guard came into the church and said it's a very dangerous situation outside. No one can leave this church. You must stay here. And early that Monday morning, they placed many of us in jeeps and took us to the home of a very successful African-American businessman who had been a Tuskegee Airman. But we all stayed until we got ready to leave to go to Mississippi. But the local people brought food and something for us to eat and to drink. And Dr. King and Reverend Abernathy, because by this time Dr. King had moved to Atlanta. And so we all just stayed there planning and plotting how we were going to make it from Alabama to Mississippi. And we decided the day to leave. But the Freedom Rides led to the desegregation of public transportation all across the South. So the signs that said white waiting, white men, white women, colored women. By November the 1st, 1961, all of those signs came tumbling down, and they are gone, and they will not return. The only places our children and their children will see those signs today will be in a book